The cabin door of a 737 is a dividing line. On one side, it's the chaotic, public world of the terminal. On the other, it's a pressurized tube where the crew's word is law. But what happens when that law is unjust? What happens when a flight attendant, entrusted with the safety and service of 150 souls, decides one of them isn't worthy? On Trans-American Flight 1128 from Los Angeles to Chicago, senior flight attendant Brenda Sullivan made a choice. She chose to deny service, respect, and dignity to a black woman in seat 2B. What she didn't know was that the woman she was humiliating was the one person who could end her entire career. The air at LAX Gate C-34 was thick with the usual smells of stale coffee, jet fuel, and traveler's anxiety. Trans-American Airlines Flight 1128 to Chicago O'Hare was in its final boarding phase. Brenda Sullivan, a 22-year veteran of the skies, stood at the doorway of the Boeing 737. Her platinum blonde hair was pulled into a tight, regulatory bun that seemed to match her mood. Today, her smile was painted on, but her eyes were like steel traps, scanning, judging. Her feet throbbed in her FAA-issued heels. She'd just had a fight with her station manager over a scheduling error, and she was in no mood for people. "Welcome aboard," she said, the words as hollow as a wing flap. She watched the first-class passengers board, Mr. and Mrs. Henderson, regulars, flashing their million-miler tags. Mr. Thompson in 2A, a tech bro in a $2,000 blazer, already on his phone. Then she saw her. The woman was in her late 40s, African-American, dressed in a simple, well-tailored navy pantsuit. She carried a leather briefcase that had seen better days and a small carry-on roller bag. She paused at the threshold, her eyes scanning the cabin with an unsettling degree of detail. "Good morning," the woman said, her voice quiet but clear. Brenda's smile didn't just fade, it inverted into a look of mild annoyance. She scanned the woman, from her practical, low-heeled shoes to her natural hair, pulled back in a simple twist. "Boarding pass," Brenda snapped. Not a question, a demand. The woman held it up. "Dr. Evelyn Hayes, seat 2B. "Right," Brenda said, her eyes flicking to the empty seat next to the tech bro. She looked back at Dr. Hayes. "Your roller bag will have to go in the overhead, and it looks full. You'll probably have to gate check it." Evelyn Hayes looked at the first-class closet, 2 feet away, which was currently empty, save for a single suit bag. "Good morning," Evelyn said again, ignoring the comment. "Would it be possible to hang this suit bag for Mr. Thompson?" Wait, no, that wasn't right. Let me rephrase. Evelyn Hayes looked at the first-class closet, 2 feet away. "Would it be possible," she asked, gesturing with her own modest suit bag, "to hang this in the closet? I have a meeting as soon as I land." Brenda's lip curled. "That closet is for crew and full-fare passengers on international connections. You'll have to use the overhead bin like everyone else." Evelyn's expression didn't change, but her eyes held Brenda's for a beat too long. "I am a full-fare passenger," she said simply. "Ma'am, the bins are above your seat." Just then, Mr. Thompson in 2A, having finished his call, stood up. He unzipped his own garment bag, a flashy Toomey model. "Excuse me, sweetheart," he boomed at Brenda. "Mind hanging this for me? Don't want the Armani getting wrinkled." Brenda's entire demeanor shifted. A high-voltage smile snapped into place. "Oh, absolutely, Mr. Thompson. Right away. Can I get you a pre-departure water or some champagne?" "Champagne? Why not?" he said, not even looking at her. Brenda took his bag, carefully hung it in the very closet she had just denied Evelyn, and bustled off to the galley. Evelyn Hayes stood in the aisle. She looked at the closed closet door. She looked at the full overhead bin. Then, methodically, she rearranged 2 other bags to carefully fit her own. She sat down in 2B. From her worn briefcase, she pulled a simple, black, hardcover notebook and a Montblanc pen. She clicked the pen. In the top corner of the page, she wrote, TAA 1128, LAX Ord, 10:15 a.m., Senior FA, B. Sullivan, per name, badge. Incident 1, boarding protocol. Denied access to first-class closet. Reg 121589, cabin safety. Offered same space to passenger in 2A. Differential treatment observed. She didn't look angry. She looked meticulous. Mark Johnson, the junior flight attendant, watched this exchange from the galley. He winced. He was only 6 months out of training. He knew Brenda's reputation. She was old school, which was airline code for a lawsuit waiting to happen. He made a mental note to check on the passenger in 2B himself. The door closed. The safety briefing began. Brenda's voice on the recording, a mockery of the warmth she refused to show in person. As the plane pushed back, Evelyn Hayes put her notebook away, folded her hands, and watched. She was invisible, and for now, that's exactly what she wanted. The 737 climbed to 35,000 feet, a silver dart in the clear blue sky. Below, the mountains of Nevada gave way to the plains. Inside, the cabin hummed. In first class, Brenda Sullivan began the service. She moved with a practiced, almost aggressive efficiency. She loathed this part of the job, the endless, needy demands. She joined the airline in the 1990s, the golden age, when passengers dressed up and flight attendants were glamorous. Now she felt like a glorified waitress fending off bloggers in sweatpants. She reached 2A. Mr. Thompson, another champagne? Or perhaps our California Chardonnay? She purred. Chardonnay. And can I get a snack? I'm starving. Of course. I'll bring the mixed nuts right away. She turned, and her body language created a physical wall. She skipped 2B entirely. Evelyn Hayes, who had been reading a dense government report, looked up. Brenda was already 2 rows back, laughing with the Hendersons. Evelyn pressed the call button. A soft ding chimed in the galley. Brenda, refilling Mr. Thompson's wine, heard it. She looked at the indicator panel. 2B. She rolled her eyes, a theatrical gesture for Mark's benefit. See? It starts. Not even an hour in. Maybe she just wants a drink, Mark offered. She can wait, Brenda hissed. I go row by row. That's the procedure. 5 minutes passed. Evelyn pressed the button again. Ding. This time, Brenda marched out, her face a mask of indignation. She stopped at 2B, her hip cocked, one hand on the seat back. The light is on, she said, as if Evelyn had committed a social faux pas. Yes, Evelyn said, her voice even. I'd like a ginger ale, please, and I wanted to confirm my pre-ordered vegetarian meal. Brenda's face went blank. Vegetarian? Yes, a VGML. It was confirmed in my reservation. Brenda sighed, a sound of profound suffering. I'll have to check the manifest. We often run out. Could you check now, please? And I would still like that ginger ale. Brenda's eyes narrowed. The audacity. I'll be back, she clipped, and walked away. She returned 10 minutes later. By this time, Mr. Thompson had his wine, his nuts, and a hot towel. The Hendersons were on their second round of cocktails. Brenda stopped at 2B, and without a word, slammed a small can of ginger ale and a plastic cup of ice onto Evelyn's tray table. The ice cubes rattled. And my meal, Miss Sullivan. Brenda crossed her arms. I've checked the manifest. We don't have a VGML for you. We have the chicken breast or the pasta bolognese. Evelyn's gaze was unwavering. I am unable to eat either. I pre-ordered. The manifest you have might be the catering manifest, not the passenger reservation manifest. Could you please check your handheld device against my reservation code? This was too much. The woman was questioning her process. "Ma'am," Brenda said, her voice rising, "I have been doing this job for 22 years. I know my manifest. We do not have your meal. You can have the chicken, the pasta, or you can have a salad. And the salad comes with chicken on it." The malicious, deliberate unhelpfulness hung in the air. Mr. Thompson in 2A was now listening, a smirk on his face. He was enjoying the show. "Brenda," Mark said, appearing at her elbow, a galley tablet in his hand. He looked terrified. "Brenda, I think I found it. It's right here. Hayes, 2B, VGML. It looks like it was loaded. It must be in the aft galley." "The aft galley?" Brenda spat. "Why would they load a first-class meal back there?" "Maybe a catering mistake," Mark said, trying to be helpful. "I can go get it." "No," Brenda snapped, snatching the tablet from him. She was humiliated. The rookie and the difficult passenger had teamed up. "I'll handle it." She stormed off. She returned 15 minutes later, just as the main service was ending. She was carrying a foil-wrapped tray. She didn't put it on Evelyn's tray table. She dropped it. Thud. "Your special meal," she said, the word special dripping with a sarcasm so thick it was almost tangible. Evelyn looked at the tray. "Thank you." Brenda turned on her heel. As she did, she accidentally knocked Evelyn's ginger ale. The half-full cup tipped, spilling icy, sticky liquid all over Evelyn's pantsuit, and, more horrifyingly, into the open briefcase on the floor. "Oh!" Brenda gasped, her hand flying to her mouth in a perfect pantomime of surprise. "Clumsy me. How awful." She grabbed a few cocktail napkins and threw them onto Evelyn's lap. "You'll have to clean that up. We're about to hit turbulence." Evelyn Hayes slowly, deliberately, picked up her briefcase. The government report she was reading was soaked. The black notebook was damp. She looked at the sticky mess on her pants. Then she looked up at Brenda. She didn't say a word. She just watched. Brenda's smugness faltered. For a split second, the unwavering analytical gaze of Dr. Evelyn Hayes made her feel like she was the one being inspected. She fled to the galley. "She's a nightmare," Brenda whispered to Mark, her hands shaking. "She's trying to get me." Mark said nothing. He was busy grabbing a bottle of club soda and a fresh cloth, which he quietly took to seat 2B. "Dr. Hayes," he whispered, "I am so sorry. Here, club soda will help with the stain. Let me get you another drink." Evelyn looked up at the young man, his face a picture of genuine remorse. "Thank you, Mark," she said, reading his name tag. "You are very kind." She took the soda, and from her briefcase, she pulled out the damp black notebook. She opened it to a new page. Incident 2, in-flight service. Call light ignored, 5+ min. Denied pre-ordered meal, VGML. Junior FAM Johnson confirmed meal was on board. F.A. Sullivan displayed hostile behavior, spilling beverage on passenger and passenger's property. Refused adequate cleanup. Violation of service protocol and potential crew-level intimidation. Bullying of junior F.A. The pen scratched across the page, a quiet, deadly counterpoint to the engine's drone. 90 minutes outside of Chicago, Evelyn needed to use the lavatory. The flight had been tense. Brenda had, quite pointedly, served everyone around Evelyn, offering drink refills, warm cookies and coffee, while completely ignoring 2B. Evelyn sat, reading her damp report, a silent, isolated island in the first-class cabin. She unbuckled her seatbelt and stood up. The front lavatory, just behind the cockpit, was occupied. The occupied sign glowed red. Evelyn, as was standard, stood in the small open area near the galley, just outside the lavatory door, to wait. It was the only place to stand without blocking the aisle. She had been standing for no more than 10 seconds when Brenda stormed out of the galley. "Ma'am!" Brenda snapped. Her voice was no longer quiet. It was sharp enough to cut. Several passengers looked up. "Yes," Evelyn replied. "You cannot congregate here." Evelyn blinked. "Congregate? I'm alone. I'm waiting for the lavatory." "This area," Brenda said, gesturing to the space, "needs to be clear. It's an FAA regulation. You are blocking the galley and the cockpit. It's a security risk." This was, on its face, absurd. Evelyn knew the regulations. She wrote some of them. A passenger waiting for the lavatory was not a security risk. "I am standing out of the aisle, waiting my turn," Evelyn said, her voice remaining placid, almost lethally calm. "I will be out of the way as soon as the door opens." "Ma'am, the other lavatories are in the back," Brenda said, her voice rising in pitch and volume. "If you need to go, you can use the ones in coach." The implication was as clear as glass. "You don't belong here. Go to the back." The first-class cabin went silent. Mr. Thompson in 2A was openly filming on his phone. The Hendersons looked mortified. And then a new voice joined. "She's right, you know." It was a woman in 3C, a Mrs. Davenport, who had been listening and sipping her Chardonnay with a sour look on her face. "You're making everyone uncomfortable. This isn't your private jet, dear. If she tells you to move, you should move. We're all trying to have a pleasant flight." The tag team humiliation was complete. Brenda, now emboldened by her new ally, crossed her arms. "See? Now, if you don't return to your seat immediately, I will have to inform the captain that you are a non-compliant passenger." This was the line, the uncrossable line. In airline terminology, non-compliant passenger was a code word. It was the first step toward being restrained, being arrested on landing, being put on a no-fly list. It was a threat of career-ending, life-altering consequence, and Brenda had just used it to win a power play over a lavatory. Evelyn Hayes's entire demeanor changed. The mask of the patient, invisible passenger fell away. What was left was cold, focused authority. "Miss Sullivan," Evelyn said, her voice dropping, "you are making a very serious allegation. Are you officially declaring me non-compliant for waiting for a lavatory?" "I am ordering you to return to your seat," Brenda shot back. "This is your last chance." "No," Evelyn said. The word landed like a stone. Brenda's face went purple with rage. "That's it!" she shrieked. "That is it! You are a threat!" She turned, unlocked the cockpit door keypad, and slammed her hand on the buzzer. A moment later, the cockpit door opened, and the first officer, a young man named Peterson, looked out. "What's going on, Brenda? Everything okay?" "No, everything is not okay," Brenda yelled, pointing at Evelyn. "This passenger, 2B, is non-compliant. She's aggressive. She's refusing to follow crew instructions, and she's creating a security threat at the cockpit door. I need the captain." Evelyn stood, arms at her sides, as the lie, a monstrous, slanderous, dangerous lie, was told. She watched as Captain John Morris, a silver-haired man in his late 50s, unbuckled himself and stepped out of the cockpit. The captain was now off the flight deck, dealing with a manufactured crisis. This was no longer about service. This was a 5-alarm safety violation. "What the hell is going on out here?" Captain Morris boomed. His eyes fell on Evelyn. "Ma'am, I have a report. You're interfering with my crew." Evelyn Hayes looked the captain in the eye. "Captain," she said, her voice a razor's edge, "your flight attendant is lying." Captain John Morris was 87 hours away from retirement. He had a condo in Naples, Florida, waiting for him, and the last thing he wanted on this perfectly routine flight to O'Hare was a cabin event. He looked at the scene, his most senior and most volatile flight attendant, Brenda, looking triumphant and wronged. He looked at the passenger, a black woman who, to his eyes, looked perfectly calm. and he looked at his junior FA, Mark, who was hovering in the galley, looking like he was about to be sick. "All right, everyone," Morris said, trying to project command, but mostly radiating annoyed. "Brenda, one at a time. What happened?" "Captain," Brenda said, her voice full of false tears. "I asked this passenger multiple times to clear the area. She refused. She became aggressive. She pushed me." A gasp went through the cabin. Evelyn's eyes widened. This was an escalation she hadn't anticipated. "Pushed you," the captain repeated, his eyes hardening as he looked at Evelyn. "Ma'am, assaulting a flight attendant is a federal offense." "Captain Morris," Evelyn said, her voice cutting through the drama. "I did not. I was standing here, waiting for the lavatory. Your flight attendant, Mrs. Sullivan, instructed me to go to the back of the plane. When I declined, and Mrs. Davenport in 3C chimed in, Ms. Sullivan threatened to report me as non-compliant. I told her no. I would not be returning to my seat, as I was waiting for the lavatory. I have not raised my voice, nor have I laid a hand on anyone." She was clinical. She was precise. She sounded like a witness, not a participant. Captain Morris was stuck. It was a he said, she said. He rubbed the bridge of his nose. "Mark!" he barked, looking at the junior FA. "You saw this. What happened?" This was the moment. Mark Johnson felt the blood drain from his face. Brenda was staring at him, a look of pure, unadulterated venom. Her eyes said, "You sink me, I'll take you with me. I'll end your career before it starts." Mark looked at Captain Morris. He looked at Evelyn. He licked his lips. "Sir, it all happened so fast," he stammered. "The passenger, she was standing there. And Brenda did ask her to move. It got loud." He had tried to find a middle. He had failed everyone. "He's new," Brenda jumped in, seeing her opening. "He doesn't know the procedures. She was a threat, Captain. Look at her, she's not even sorry." Captain Morris had heard enough. He had a plane to land. He wasn't going to solve a cabin dispute at 30,000 feet. He made the easy choice. He sided with his crew. "Ma'am," he said to Evelyn, his voice final, "I am not going to have a disturbance on my aircraft. I don't care what this is about. You will return to your seat. Now." "Captain," Evelyn said, "I need to use the lavatory." "Then you will use the one in the back," he ordered. "And I need to be clear," Evelyn continued, her voice like ice. "Are you, as the captain, endorsing your flight attendant's false report that I am non-compliant? I am ordering you, as the captain of this aircraft, to return to your seat, or I will have you detained upon landing. Am I clear?" The threat was absolute. Evelyn Hayes held his gaze. She saw a man who had failed a test, a failure of command, a failure of crew resource management, a failure to de-escalate. "You are perfectly clear, Captain," she said. She turned. She did not go to the back. She walked past Mr. Thompson, who was still filming. She walked past Mrs. Davenport, who was smirking. She sat down in 2B. She buckled her seatbelt. Then she picked up the black notebook. Incident 3. False report to flight deck. F.A. Sullivan filed a false report of a non-compliant and aggressive passenger, escalating to a false claim of assault. Incident 4. Failure of command. Captain J. Morris, upon leaving the cockpit, violation of sterile cockpit rules if below 10K, but still poor form, failed to investigate. Sided with crew based on seniority, not facts. Ignored junior crew testimony. Escalated threat to passenger. CRM. Crew resource management. Failure. Potential safety violation by creating unnecessary cabin-to-cockpit distraction. She wrote for 20 minutes. She catalogued every violation. The Hendersons, in the row in front of her, turned around. "That was just awful," Mrs. Henderson whispered. "We saw the whole thing. You didn't touch her." "Thank you," Evelyn said quietly. "Enjoy the rest of your flight." The rest of the flight was a tomb. Brenda Sullivan stayed in the aft galley, fuming. Mark, looking green, handled the final cabin preparations. Captain Morris stayed locked in the cockpit. The plane began its descent into Chicago. The fasten seatbelt sign chimed. As they descended through 10,000 feet, the sterile cockpit rule was in effect. No non-essential communication. Brenda, however, was still on the warpath. She came forward to check the first-class cabin. She stopped at 3C. "Thank you for your help, Mrs. Davenport," she whispered, loud enough for Evelyn to hear. "It's nice when some people respect the rules." Evelyn noted it. Violation. Non-essential conversation during sterile cockpit phase. Passenger distraction. The list was getting very, very long. The wheels of Flight 1128 screeched onto the tarmac at O'Hare. The landing was rough, a fitting end to a turbulent journey. As the plane taxied to gate K-12, the cabin was thick with an angry, unspoken tension. Brenda and Mark prepared the door. The ding of the seatbelts off sign was a starting pistol. The passengers in first class, with the exception of Evelyn, were all too eager to escape. Mr. Thompson pushed past on his phone again. The Hendersons gave Evelyn a sympathetic look. Mrs. Davenport waddled past, giving Evelyn a final, sour glare. Evelyn Hayes waited. She slowly gathered her belongings. She tucked the damp report into her briefcase. She slid the black notebook into its pocket. She zipped the bag, deliberately, slowly. She was the last passenger to deplane. She walked to the doorway where Brenda Sullivan stood, her face a mask of smug victory. Mark was in the background, pointedly reorganizing the galley. "Have a nice day in Chicago," Brenda sneered, the words laced with pure, uncut venom. Evelyn stopped on the threshold of the jet bridge. She turned to face Brenda. "Miss Sullivan?" Evelyn said, her voice quiet, conversational. "What?" Brenda snapped. "Get off the plane. I have to turn this cabin." "Your conduct today, Miss Sullivan, was not just unprofessional," Evelyn said, as if giving a performance review. "It was a liability. You violated procedures from boarding to landing." Brenda actually laughed. It was a short, sharp, ugly sound. "A liability? Honey, I am the procedure. I've been doing this for 22 years, long before you got a handout to sit in 2B. You, with your little complaint, you're nothing. I'll be flying this route tomorrow, and you'll be, well, who cares where you'll be? Now get off. You're holding up my crew." Evelyn Hayes looked at her. She absorbed the full, unfiltered hatred, the racism, the arrogance, the absolute, unshakable confidence of a bully who had never been challenged. "A complaint?" Evelyn said softly. "You think this is a complaint? That's interesting." She held Brenda's gaze. "I'm not going to baggage claim, Ms. Sullivan. I'm going to the operations center. And I'm going to file a report." Brenda's smirk widened. "Oh, I'm shaking. Go ahead. File your little report. It'll go right in the shredder with all the other he said, she said nonsense. My word against yours. And on this plane, my word is the only one that matters. Have a lovely day." Brenda turned her back, a final, dismissive gesture. Evelyn Hayes stepped onto the jet bridge. Her heels clicked on the metal floor. She did not turn left toward baggage claim and the exit. She turned right toward the restricted, crew-only doors that led deep into the bowels of O'Hare's Terminal 1. She walked with a purpose. She knew exactly where she was going. She was going to see Gail Jenkins, the TAA O'Hare station manager. Brenda, meanwhile, went back to the galley. "Can you believe that witch?" she said to Mark. threatening to file a report. As if. "Brenda," Mark said, his voice trembling. "I think you should be worried. She didn't seem normal." "Oh, stow it, Mark," Brenda said, ripping a new trash bag open. "She's just another entitled, well, you know. She'll be forgotten before we're recatered." But Mark looked down the jet bridge. He had a terrible sinking feeling that forgotten was the last thing Dr. Evelyn Hayes was about to be. The Trans-American Airlines Operations Center at O'Hare is a windowless, high-stress bunker in the terminal's sub-level. It smells of industrial carpet and lukewarm coffee. Gail Jenkins, the station manager, was having a migraine. A weather system over Denver was causing cascading delays, and she had 2 no-shows on her afternoon cruise. The door buzzed. Her assistant, a young man named Tim, poked his head in. "Gail, there's a passenger here. Says she needs to see you. About flight 1128. Gail groaned. "A complaint. Just what I need. Did she lose a bag? Did the Wi-Fi not work? Give her a $100 voucher and send her on her way." "She's not asking for a voucher," Tim said. "She's very specific. She's asking for you by name." Gail sighed, rubbing her temples. "Fine. Send her in. 2 minutes." The door opened. Dr. Evelyn Hayes walked in. She looked to Gail like any other professional, slightly annoyed passenger. "Ms. Jenkins, I'm Evelyn Hayes. I was a passenger on 1128. "Dr. Hayes," Gail said, forcing a customer service smile. "I'm so sorry for whatever happened on your flight. I'm authorized to offer you—" "Ms. Jenkins, I'm going to stop you right there," Evelyn said, her voice polite but firm. She reached into a briefcase. Gail thought she was reaching for a receipt or a stained piece of clothing. Instead, Evelyn placed 2 things on the desk. The first was a small, leather-bound wallet. She flipped it open. The second was her black notebook. Gail's eyes went to the wallet, to the gold, embossed seal, to the words, Federal Aviation Administration, and beneath it, Evelyn Hayes, Ph.D., Senior Field Inspector, Department of Transportation. Gail Jenkins's face went from pink to chalk white. The blood drained from it so fast she physically grabbed her desk for support. This was not a complaint. This was not a customer. This was an unannounced, red flag audit. This was the single worst-case scenario for an airline manager. "Dr. Hayes," Gail stammered. I had no idea. We had no notification." "That's the point," Evelyn said, her voice now devoid of any passenger quality. It was pure, distilled authority. "I was flying revenue off the clock, but your crew has just created an on-the-record multi-violation incident. I am now officially on the clock." She opened her notebook. "Gail, I need a secure conference room, and I need you to pull the entire crew of 1128, the captain, the first officer, and all 3 flight attendants. I want them here. Now, their duty day is over. They are not to communicate with each other, and I want them in separate rooms. This is now an official FAA inquiry." Yes, ma'am, of course." Gail was on her phone before Evelyn finished the sentence. "Tim, get me conference rooms A, B, and C, and get security. I need you to go to gate K12. Pull the crew of 1128, all of them. Tell Captain Morris it's a red flag order. Escort them to the ops center. Separately. Now." Gail's hands were shaking. "Dr. Hayes, our full cooperation." "You will give me the CVR," Evelyn said, reading from her notes. "I want the cockpit voice recorder. I want the maintenance logs. And I want the full passenger manifest. I am grounding this crew pending a full investigation." "Grounding?" Gail squeaked. "But, Brenda, she's got the return flight." "Brenda," Evelyn said, her voice flat, "is the primary subject of this investigation." 20 minutes later, the crew of 1128 trickled in. Captain Morris was first, blustering. "Gale, what is this? I've got a commute." "Oh." He saw Evelyn, sitting at the head of the conference table, her credentials next to her. His bluster died. "Oh, shit." Mark came in next, looking terrified. He saw Evelyn and just nodded, as if accepting his fate. Brenda was last. She stormed into the ops center, her roller bag clattering behind her. "Gale, what is this? I'm at the end of my 12-hour duty day, and you pull me off the plane? This is a union violation. I'm writing you up." "Brenda," Gale said, her voice a low, terrified whisper. "Shut up." Brenda finally looked around the room. She saw the grim-faced security guards. She saw a white-faced Captain Morris, and she saw her, the passenger, sitting at their table. "You have got to be kidding me," Brenda shrieked, pointing at Evelyn. "You are actually listening to this person. After she caused all that trouble. I want her arrested. She assaulted me." The room went dead silent. Evelyn Hayes looked at Brenda Sullivan. She hadn't said a word. She let the silence stretch. Then she spoke. "Ms. Sullivan," Brenda was still ranting, "I'm not going to be intimidated by some—" "Brenda!" Gale Jenkins screamed. "That is Dr. Evelyn Hayes. She's the FAA." Brenda stopped. Her mouth hung open. "The what?" "I am Senior Field Inspector, Dr. Evelyn Hayes, Federal Aviation Administration," Evelyn said, as if reading an epitaph. "And you, Miss Sullivan, are in violation of Title 14, Code of Federal Regulations, Part 121, concerning interference with crew duties, filing a false report to the flight deck, and failure to comply with safety protocols." Brenda's face, a moment ago purple with rage, was now the color of ash. She looked at Evelyn's badge. She looked at the notebook. She looked at Gale. "No," she whispered. "No. You're not. She's lying." Evelyn just looked at her. "Ms. Jenkins, please have security escort Ms. Sullivan to conference room B. My first interview will be with Captain Morris. My second will be with Mr. Johnson. Ms. Sullivan can wait." The "can wait" was the cruelest part. As security stepped forward, Brenda's legs gave out. She grabbed onto a chair. The 22-year veteran, the queen of the cabin, had been dethroned. But, she stammered, "the lavatory, the meal, all of it," Evelyn said, turning to Captain Morris. "We're going to talk about all of it, starting with your decision to leave the cockpit." The hard karma had not just arrived. It had been sitting in 2B, taking notes. The investigation was not a meeting, it was a dissection. The secure conference room in the TAA Ops Center was a sterile, windowless box painted a depressing shade of corporate beige. The only sound was the high-pitched hum of the fluorescent lights and the methodical click, click, click of Dr. Evelyn Hayes's Mont Blanc pen as she laid out her evidence. Gale Jenkins, the station manager, sat in the corner, a pale ghost at her own tribunal. She had provided coffee, which sat untouched, and water, which Evelyn drank with deliberate, slow sips. The crew of 1128 was held in separate training rooms, their phones confiscated. They were, in the parlance of the law, separated and contained. There would be no comparing notes, no aligning of stories. Evelyn reviewed her notes. The black book was now supplemented by a TAA-issued tablet, onto which Gale had, with trembling hands, downloaded the passenger manifest, the catering manifest, and, most crucially, the official incident report Captain Morris had filed from the cockpit, which was full of Brenda's lies. Evelyn looked at Gale. "Send for the captain. We will begin with the flight deck." Captain John Morris entered the room, not with a swagger, but with the forced, puffed-up bluster of a man who knows he's in trouble but isn't ready to admit it. He was 87 hours from retirement, and this, to him, was just a final piece of union-mandated paperwork. "All right, Gale," he boomed, ignoring Evelyn. "What is this? I've got a commute to catch. This had better be quick." "John," Gale said, her voice thin. "This is Dr. Evelyn Hayes, from the FAA. Morris's manufactured smile froze and slid off his face. He looked at Evelyn, really looked at her. For the first time, he saw the badge on the table. He saw the cold, analytical eyes. This was not the passenger from 2B. This was a regulator. "Oh," he said. The one word was a complete surrender. "Captain Morris, please have a seat," Evelyn said, gesturing to the chair opposite her. "This is not a TAA matter. This is a federal inquiry." He sat, heavily. "Captain," Evelyn began, her voice even, "I want to talk about crew resource management, specifically your failure to use it today." "Now wait a minute," Morris said, his training kicking in. "My crew reported a threat. A passenger was interfering, assaulting my senior flight attendant." "A threat, Captain. Is that what you saw?" Evelyn leaned forward. "Or is that what you were told?" "Brenda, Ms. Sullivan, she's a 22-year veteran. She said the passenger pushed her." "And did you, as the captain in command, verify this threat?" Evelyn asked. "Did you ask the junior flight attendant? Did you ask the other passengers? Or did you, upon leaving the flight deck?" "I didn't leave the flight deck," he lied, poorly. Evelyn raised an eyebrow. "Captain, I was there. You left the cockpit. You entered the cabin. You failed to investigate. You sided with your senior crew, and you threatened me, a non-combative passenger, with detention. You did all of this. Why, Captain? Because it was easier? Because Brenda was loud and I was quiet? I made a command decision." "You made a mistake," Evelyn cut him off, her voice like a scalpel. "You took a customer service dispute over a lavatory, and, through your own failure of command, escalated it into a security incident. The only person who created a genuine threat to the flight deck was you, when you unbuckled and left your post. You abandoned your primary duty to— What? Yell at a woman in a pantsuit?" Morris deflated. All the air went out of him. The silver-haired sky god was just a man, 87 hours from his pension, who had just realized he'd thrown it all away. "She said," he whispered. "Brenda said, what she said is her problem. What you did is yours." Evelyn wrote a final note. "Your license will be suspended, effective immediately, pending a full psychiatric evaluation and a CRM retraining board. Trans-American will handle the internal discipline. The FAA will handle your certificate." He looked at his hands. "My pension, that's between you and TAA, Captain," Evelyn said, devoid of sympathy. "You may go. Send in Mr. Johnson." His karma. Captain Morris was grounded. His triumphant water cannon salute and retirement party were cancelled. He was forced into 120 hours of remedial CRM training, where he was, as a 58-year-old man, treated like a rookie cadet. He was fined by TAA for the flight deck violation, a fine that docked his final payout. He never flew as captain again. Mark Johnson entered the room like a man walking to his own execution. He was 26, 6 months on the job, and saw his entire life, his dreams of international routes, evaporating. He sat down before he was asked. "Dr. Hayes," he blurted, I am so sorry. For all of it. The drink, the meal, what she said. Evelyn held up a hand. "Mr. Johnson, why did you lie to the captain?" I didn't lie," he stammered. I said it was loud. You obfuscated," Evelyn corrected. "You had a clear-cut opportunity to de-escalate a situation, by telling the truth to your captain. You could have said, "Sir, the passenger did not push her." But you were silent. Why? Mark looked down, his face flushing with shame. "Brenda," he said, the name like a curse. She's poison, Ma'am. She gets new people on her flights and she tests them. If you cross her, she'll write you up. She'll go to the union. She'll make your life hell. I have loans. I was scared of her." "I understand," Evelyn said, and for the first time, a sliver of warmth entered her voice. "Your fear is understandable. It is not, however, an excuse. Your first duty, Mr. Johnson, is not to your senior flight attendant. It is not to the company's bottom line. It is to Title 14 of the Code of Federal Regulations. It is to safety. That includes the safety of passengers from your crew." She leaned forward. "You saw a passenger being bullied. You saw a senior FA deliberately withhold a meal, deliberately spill a drink, and then file a false, dangerous report to the flight deck. Your silence made you complicit. A failure to report is a black mark, but it's a mark you can clean. A false report, like the one your captain and Ms. Sullivan are facing, you never recover from." His karma. Mark Johnson was given a formal letter of reprimand from the FAA and a 60-day unpaid suspension from TAA. It was a harsh, terrifying, and expensive lesson. But he kept his job. As requested by Gail Jenkins, at Evelyn's suggestion, he was transferred to the San Francisco base, far from Brenda's old territory, and put on international routes. He would spend the rest of his career as a by-the-book, safety-first purist, eventually becoming a union safety rep, vowing to never let another Brenda terrorize a crew. "Before we see her," Evelyn said to Gail, "I need to see the rest of the evidence." Gail had already pulled the statements. The Hendersons had emailed a detailed, scathing review. But the real evidence was from 2A. Mr. Thompson, the tech bro, had indeed posted his video. It had 10,000 views. Gail and Evelyn watched the phone footage on the TAA tablet. The audio was crystal clear. Brenda's voice. "Ma'am, the other lavatories are in the back. If you need to go, you can use the ones in coach." Mrs. Davenport's voice. "This isn't your private jet, dear. If she tells you to move, you should move." Brenda's voice. "If you don't return to your seat immediately, I will have to inform the captain that you are a non-compliant passenger." Evelyn's voice. Calm, quiet. "No." And then, the most damning part, the arrival of the captain, the lie. Brenda's voice, shrieking, She pushed me." The video, held steady by Mr. Thompson, clearly showed Evelyn standing still, her hands at her sides. It was a complete, unambiguous, career-ending fabrication. Gail Jenkins put her head in her hands. "My God. She's done." "Yes," Evelyn said, saving the video file. "She is." Their karma. Mr. Thompson's video was used by TAA as grounds for immediate dismissal. Mrs. Davenport, the woman in 3C, was identified from the manifest. TAA's legal department sent her a formal letter, revoking her A-list, 1 million miler status for interference with a flight crew in the performance of their safety duties. Her account was zeroed out. Brenda Sullivan had been left in a room for 3 hours. The anger had long since burned away, replaced by a cold, crawling dread. When the security guard finally came for her, she was trembling. She walked into the conference room. This was not the sobbing, pleading woman Evelyn had expected. Not yet. Brenda had one last card to play. The victim. "Dr. Hayes," she said, her voice thick with fake tears. I'm just so mortified. I don't know what. I think I'm just so stressed with the schedules, Ms. Sullivan," Evelyn said, cutting her off. This is not a TAA disciplinary hearing. This is a federal investigation into your conduct. You may have a union representative present." "Oh no," Brenda said, trying for a conspiratorial, "we girls gotta stick together" tone. "No, I just want to talk to you. Woman to woman, I'm so sorry. It was a mistake. I'm clumsy. I spilled the drink. It was an accident. Was it an accident, Ms. Sullivan?" Evelyn interrupted, "when you denied me access to the first-class closet at 10:17 a.m.? The rules. It was full." "It was empty," Evelyn stated, "and you immediately offered the same full closet to passenger 2A. A white male." Brenda's fake tears stopped. He's a million-miler." "I am a million-miler," Evelyn said, a fact that was true, but that she hadn't needed to use. "Was it an accident when you told me you didn't have my pre-ordered vegetarian meal? Catering. They're awful. They always—" "Mr. Johnson found it in 2 minutes," Evelyn said, her eyes fixed on Brenda. "Was it an accident when you dropped it on my tray and called it my special meal?" The mask was cracking. "You were a difficult passenger from the moment you boarded." "Difficult," Evelyn repeated, "because I asked for the service I paid for." And now, the final, desperate gambit. The rage. The real Brenda. "Oh, you people are always difficult," Brenda suddenly spat, her voice low and venomous. "You come on here with your attitude, and your suits, thinking you're better than everyone, looking for a handout, looking for a lawsuit. You're probably one of those diversity hires, aren't you? That's what this is. You're just trying to ruin me, because you can, because I'm a white woman." The accusation hung in the sterile air. Gail Jenkins gasped. Evelyn Hayes did not react. She let the silence stretch. She let Brenda's unfiltered racism echo off the beige walls. "Thank you, Mrs. Sullivan," Evelyn said, her voice a flat, dead calm. "You've just confirmed the why. Now let's move on to the what. At 1:30 p.m., you told the captain in command that I pushed you." I felt threatened," Brenda shrieked. "You were in my space." "This," Evelyn said, turning the tablet around, "is a video from passenger 2A. Let's watch it together." She pressed play. They watched the scene. They watched Brenda lie. They watched Evelyn stand, still as a statue. When the video ended, Brenda was not crying. She was just empty. She had nothing left. No lies, no excuses, no rage. "You filed a false report," Evelyn said, her voice a monotone. "You lied to a captain about a physical assault. You manufactured a security threat on a commercial airliner. You did this because, as you said, I was one of those people." Evelyn closed her notebook. "You are a danger, Ms. Sullivan, not just to passengers. You are a danger to the entire system." Her karma. Brenda Sullivan was fired by Trans-American Airlines before Evelyn even left the ops center. The official cause was gross misconduct, endangerment, and filing a false safety report. But the real blow came from the FAA. Evelyn's official report was 42 pages long and included the video, the passenger statements, and the CVR data. Brenda's airman certificate, her license to fly, was revoked permanently. She sued TAA for wrongful termination, claiming racial discrimination. The judge, after watching Mr. Thompson's video, dismissed the case in less than 10 minutes. She lost her job. She lost her pension. She lost her flight benefits. She lost her entire identity. 8 months later, Captain Dave Rollins, a senior TAA pilot who used to fly with Morris, was on a layover at O'Hare. His rental car reservation had been messed up. He walked, annoyed, to the Avis counter in the terminal. "I have a reservation under Rollins," he said, tapping on the counter. "One moment, sir," a flat, dead voice replied. He looked up. And he looked down. The woman behind the counter was hunched, her face sallow. The platinum blonde hair was gone, replaced by a mousy dishwater blonde with 2 inches of dark roots. Her uniform was no longer a crisp, tailored TAA blazer, but a mustard yellow Avis polo shirt that strained at the buttons. "Brenda," he said, squinting. "Brenda Sullivan?" She looked up. Her eyes were dead. The steel trap, judgmental eyes were gone, replaced with a permanent, hollow stare. She recognized him. "I'm sorry, sir," she said, her voice a monotone. "Do you have a confirmation number?" "Brenda, it's me, Dave Rollins. I heard what happened. Will that be with or without the collision damage waiver, sir?" she interrupted, her eyes focused on the computer screen. He stopped. He saw it all. The fall. The end. Just the waiver, please." He signed the paper, took the keys and walked away. He glanced back once. Brenda Sullivan was standing at the counter, a ghost in a yellow polo, staring out the massive terminal window. She was watching a 737 push back from the gate, its engines whining, as it prepared to go to a place she could never go again. She was, and would remain, permanently grounded. And that's the story of Flight 1128. It's a hard reminder that your job, no matter what it is, comes with a responsibility. Brenda Sullivan's prejudice, her anger, and her ego cost her everything. Dr. Evelyn Hayes wasn't looking for a fight, but she was the exact person, at the exact wrong time, to hold someone accountable. This isn't just a story about karma, it's a story about consequences. The smallest act of bias can have the biggest repercussions. What do you think? Did Brenda get what she deserved? Was the captain just as guilty? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you like stories where justice is finally served, make sure you like this video, share it with someone who needs to see it, and subscribe to the channel. We have new stories coming every week, and you don't want to miss a single one. Thanks for watching.